Today on Behind the Strength, we are joined by a woman who proves that storytelling is power and strategy is the backbone behind it. From studying law in Chicago to building one of Mumbai's fastest growing PR and marketing agencies, she has blended logic with creativity to help brands find their voice and scale with intention. She started Rainmaker Consults and built it into a powerhouse that helps brands cut through noise with clarity and impact. She is a founder, an author, and a mompreneur who understands that real strength lies in resilience, reinvention, and showing up consistently. Please welcome Shouger Merchant Doshi. Welcome to Behind the Strength.
Thank you, Priya, and I don't think I could have written the introduction as well as you did.
Tried my best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Shouger, before Rainmaker Consults, who was Shouger at her core?
That's a really good question, actually. So the thing is, I went, as you know, and as you said, I did journalism as my undergraduate. Then I did law. So for me, writing was what I was. Like for me, writing was at the core of everything I love, and it made me really happy to write. I've written for multiple newspapers. I used to be an editor in Chicago as well. And that really made me happy to write my thoughts, talk about a lot of politics. I used to comment on politics a lot, and just things that happened in the world, things that happened in the US when I was living there for 10 years.
Wow.
So that really was my core, that I would express myself through my writing. And then I realized that obviously translated to law, and just kept going in my career where the writing was a very integral part. Even as a lawyer, you need to write and read a lot. So that was a part of what I wanted to do with my life. So I said, whatever I do, it will be communication driven, and that will be kind of at the core of whatever I do.
Absolutely. So that was where I think that's where the seed was kind of laid for your...
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when I was in college, I think I was probably 19 or 20, and some of my columns that I was just writing for our university paper got picked up and published in an NYU textbook. So at that point, I realized I'm really good at this. And even in school, I was always a good student. I wasn't ever, a top of the class student, but I was always good. I was in the 80. Also, I come from a family where education is very, very important. And my father had 9 degrees and all of that.
Wow.
So it was a lot to keep up with. So for me, getting an 80, 85 was average, but like a 90, 95 was what he really wanted me to get. So when I say I was an above average student, I was an 80, 85.
Yeah, above average in your family.
In my family, speaking. Yes, relatively speaking, an 80, 85 was okay, fine, you've made the cut, but you're just not there yet. But okay, we'll accept it. So for me, being able to sort of communicate, write, go out there with what I want to say was a very integral part of who I am and what I want to do with my life. So for me, that's where the seed was sown. That's where I started writing, reading a lot. I also authored a book, as you know, during COVID, because I was like, the world is at a standstill. This has been my dream to write a book, and somehow Penguin found it interesting enough to kind of, buy. And so that's how that happened. But in my life throughout, it's always been that communication has to be at the core of whatever I do. And even with PR, the way it came about and the way sort of Rainmaker was born was very organic. I had my son, and when I had my son, and now of course this was 11 years ago, when we were pregnant, me and my 2 partners at Pinwheel Project, we literally saw there was nothing. There was a mother care, and there was a Kamdenu where one would go to buy everything, right?
Correct.
So there was no Hamleys yet, there was nothing.
Exactly.
So you would have to call up people who were doing cool homegrown brands from their homes, but they didn't have a platform. There was no, First Cry, and all of this came a lot later.
Much later,
so there was no platform where you could buy homegrown
products,
amazing products. So what happened is we decided we'll create this marketplace. So when we launched Pinwheel Project 10 years now to this year, it's been 10 years, when we created the idea for it, we said we need to go big and create a platform for all these people to sell and for them to get branding out of it. And initially, it really worked like that. Like people would come up to us and say, you've given us, we're getting business for the whole year, for 12 months, basis this one exhibition, because not only do people buy on that one day, but they buy later. So all these brands would come back to me and say, say, listen, can we pick your brains over coffee for marketing advice?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sure, and I loved it. And it was my thing. I was like, I would love to help you.
Right.
And my friends eventually said, you need to start charging for this. You can't be giving free advice forever.
Absolutely.
So I said, fine. And then I started the agency with a boot camp model where we would just meet with founders who were starting out because we wanted to be a part of the startup story. And you know, when you contribute to someone's growth from the inception,
Correct.
it's just a different feeling, and it's a different kind of association that you have with the founder, because
Right.
it's very founder led. Later they raise funds, later they have teams, later
Absolutely.
things get, you know, sort of more organized and more professional,
Yes.
and more corporate. But when they're at the inception stage, at the startup stage, it's just a great bounce of ideas, you know, sort of planning ahead. You're setting the tone for what the company is going to look like, what the
Absolutely.
culture is going to look like, what the products and services are going to look like. So that whole contribution is what we want to be a
Absolutely.
part of. So we started off just doing the boot camp, which was, you know, we sit with you for 2 days, we analyze your entire company,
Right.
and we kind of tell you what you should and shouldn't do, and we create a social media strategy in addition to PR, marketing, everything, which influencers you should work with, all of that. So
Correct.
that kind of strategy is what we started with. And then, of course, as brands kept coming to us, we had to convert to a
Yes.
full-blown traditional PR agency.
Absolutely.
But that was literally how it started. And then
And I think
we
you've
went
done
from
a fine
2
job
people
of
to
that.
65 in like 6.5 years. So
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You've done a fine job of that,
Thank
I'm sure. And
a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, which nobody tells you about. It just looks glam.
Always
because
does.
the agency life looks very glamorous. That, you know, you go to attend all these lovely
Oh,
parties,
yes.
and you go to all these launches, and you attend these beautiful awards and all of that. But it's not that, right? That's
Exactly, and
That's,
that's-
just the last thing we do in the day.
precisely, Shouger. And that's what Behind the Strength is about.
Yes,
It's not
exactly.
always what's on the face
It's
of
just
it.
not what it looks like.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's always what, you know, the journey that is behind that face.
Absolutely.
You began your career in law. What made you shift into PR and marketing?
So when I was in law, and I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever said this before, but I only went to law school to prove it to myself. Because what happened is, of course, I was in journalism, and journalism, as everybody knows, and unfortunately everybody knows, and even at the time when I was studying, wasn't a very high paying profession.
Of course, yeah.
So my dad was like, listen, and he was kind of my guru, my everything. I would just like, whatever he said was like the final word for me.
Right.
So he was like, listen, you need to have a backup option, because if life, you know, throws lemons at you,
Yes.
you should have a backup kind of high-paying, good career job that, you know, is something that you can always fall back on.
Right.
And so the natural transition for me, because I did pre-law along with journalism to see if I liked it in my undergrad, so it just felt natural and right for me because I love the communication bit. So for me, law looked like a great option. And honestly, because my whole life, like I said, I was a good student. I was never great, but I wanted to kind of prove to myself that I could do this. Because it's hard. It's not
Yes.
easy. You obviously have to take the LSATs. You got to get into a good law school. After you get into a good law school, you got to pass the bar. Then you have to get a job and you have to practice. And it's not easy to
Not at all.
maintain all of
That's
that,
right.
especially when you come from a different country.
Right.
Because I was trying to, you know, practice there, which I did for 2 years after I passed the bar.
Wow.
But that being said, it's not easy because you have to literally, and I did litigation, you have to go up and argue in court in a completely different accent because they don't understand you. No one who's Indian literally practices there. If they're Indian, they're born and raised there.
Absolutely.
And they, you know, speak like the rest of
Yes,
the
it's organic
Americans.
for them,
So
yes.
it's harder for us because we speak like British. You know, we have the British way of talking, and
Absolutely,
they don't
yes.
understand that half the time, especially in court. So you have to kind of talk with an accent, which was the first challenge for me. But of course, I was there for 10 years, so it became easier as I, you know, lived there. But that being said, that was, you know, challenge number one. And I did it because I really wanted to prove to myself that you can do this if you really want to. And I was also like one of those party girls, right? So in my head, I was like, I have to prove to myself that I can do all of it. I can party, I can
Yes.
enjoy my life, and I can do this, right?
Basically wholesome for that age.
And I
yes.
just wanted to do it for myself. This degree was for myself. And of course, once I passed the bar and I started working and I loved it, and anyone who knows me also knows that I was a really good lawyer. When I moved back, I was still practicing here as well.
Okay.
And I loved it. My only problem here was that the profession is not very suited to women who want to have kids, because if you
Right.
want to be in litigation, you're in court from 10 to 5.
Absolutely, yes.
You start working after 5 and briefing counsel for the next day.
Right.
So you're not coming home till 9 or 10 typically.
Absolutely, yes.
And that wasn't something I wanted to do if I want to start a family. I mean, I didn't want to have a child for nannies only to raise my kids.
That's very
right?
true.
So when I decided I wanted to have a child, that's when I stepped back. And that's when Pinwheel happened, because I clearly can't sit for long without doing anything.
Yes.
I've never really gone like, any time without working. Even when I moved back from the US, I think I moved back June 15th. I started work July 1st.
Right.
So I, at a law firm here, I've never not worked. So for me, just sitting idle or, not having something to do would drive me crazy.
Absolutely. They say
So
once a
that was-
workaholic, always a workaholic.
And you know what
Doesn't
this-
really
you know
matter
what they
when and
say?
how.
They say like when there's something to be done, when there's something urgent to be done, give it to the busiest person in the room. They'll get it done.
Absolutely.
It's so true till date. I have
Yes.
literally tested this theory 100 times by delegating work to the laziest people I know, and it will never get done.
Never get done.
Never. And they
they
have
sit-
nothing to do.
And they're sitting idle.
They're sitting completely idle.
Absolutely.
But
I
the
agree.
busiest person will get it done like this, because we're
Right.
just used to like, doing
They're-
150.
they're in auto mode.
Yeah, we're automated to
Always.
just work,
Yes,
right? So like
yes.
put something more on my plate. Okay, I can handle it.
Absolutely.
Nothing on the plate, can't handle that.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, that's the time where you actually start feeling, oh, maybe I'm unwell. It actually works that way.
I
It
completely
does.
agree with you.
It
Like
does.
I think when I had a little bit of a burnout from work last year in January, and I think I was at home for like a week, I just
Right.
said, listen, I need to like just sleep and be at home. And when I was there, I was at home and I was looking into work, but just, for an hour or two every day, and I was trying to like take a break from it.
Right.
I literally felt like just getting up and going to my mom's house for lunch was an effort, because I was just doing nothing in the day. So I understand the other side, the
Yes.
flip side of the coin.
Absolutely.
I get it. When you're not doing anything, just leaving the house is an effort, and it's like,
Right.
I did one thing today or two things today, but I am going from Navi Mumbai to Thane to Ville Parle to like back to Worli and then home to
Right.
Pedder Road all in a day. So for me, like a full day is like 100 things at once. So
And that actually keeps you calm, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, I need that. I need to be
You need
busy,
that,
and I
yes.
need, and sometimes I wish I didn't need that, because I think maybe it would make me more peaceful. But this is like this. I mean, I've accepted this is my
Yeah.
life, and this is, our work is like this.
Absolutely,
Where
I
you do
agree.
need to constantly go where clients are
You have
located.
to be on the move,
You need
yeah.
to know what the client does, and
Right.
sometimes you need to go to see what they do. Sometimes they'll come to you, but many times you need to go
You
to
need
them
to
to
be there.
understand what they do.
Yes.
If you don't understand what they do, how are you going to tell the rest of the world what they do? So
Precisely.
that is something that's a part of what we do. So we have to accept that, and just, traveling is
Yes.
a part of it.
It is. Most certainly it is. And I also feel that unless and until you're there physically, mentally, and emotionally understanding the client's point of view,
100%.
that is the only way to build with and for the client.
And the thing is that at the end of the day, public relations is about the relations.
Right.
It's about relationships. You have to nurture those relationships, whether it's with
Absolutely.
clients, whether it's with media,
Right.
whether it's with other brands, because you
Right.
want to work with them in a collaborative way. But at the end of the day, it's about nurturing good relationships, and it's not always just the founder, of course. It's always the team as well.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it just involves going that little bit of an extra mile, because it's a part of our culture. We just have to do it, because that's how you will really get the confidence of the client. See, today,
Absolutely.
if somebody's trusting you with their baby and something that they have also built with their hard work, blood, sweat and tears, just like I have built Rainmaker. Everyone has built their companies with equal amounts of love and passion and all of that. So if I am being trusted with something, if I have to go the extra mile, or my team has to go for a couple of extra events to show them a vote of confidence or a support, that's what we're going to do, because
Absolutely.
you've trusted us. So
Yeah, you're
we
gonna
will
show up for-
we will
yes.
show up for you and be
Yes.
there when you need us.
Absolutely.
So that's just how public relations works.
Right. Why the name Rainmaker? What does it mean to you personally?
So Rainmaker is a book by John Grisham, and it was one of my first, I'm obsessed with John Grisham, and obviously courtroom dramas, it suits me given my ex-lawyer life.
Right.
So I used to obviously read a lot of them, and his was one of the first books that I read, one of the first courtroom dramas of John Grisham's that I read, and it kind of impacted me. And also, if you know, when you work at a law firm, basically, you have this thing called Rainmaker credit, which is basically, and it's a very international concept, but they do it in India as well, where if you bring a client into the firm, it's called, you get a Rainmaker credit for it. Like, okay, you brought this client into the firm, so, good on you, that kind of a thing.
Oh, wow.
So the whole point of Rainmaker was that you bring in good luck, you bring in clients,
Right.
you bring in, you bring in money for your clients, or you bring in, good luck for your clients, or you bring in added public relations coverages for your clients. So whatever you're bringing them, it's going to just leave them in a better place than they were before.
Absolutely.
So the whole point of it was not just money or, monetary things, but just even in terms of reputation and, goodwill.
Right.
So just to kind of, that's why we call it Rainmaker Consults, because we're basically consulting for the rainmakers. It's not that we're saying we are the rainmakers, but we're doing it for the rainmakers because we want to make it rain for you.
Right.
So our tagline is also, let's make it rain, because that's what we want to do for every client that comes in through the door. Absolutely. Is to leave them in a better place than they were when they first came in.
Yes.
And just to make it better for them, make their brand appeal, brand ethos, everything, just leave them in a better place than they were.
Absolutely. And I think you've done a great job of that.
We try.
What was it like starting with just 2 people and building from there?
Yeah, it was hard.
I'm sure.
My son was like 2.5 when I started the company, so I think that was really hard. There was also COVID that came right when I launched. 6 months later, we were hit with COVID. So it was like working remotely. I had just taken an office space, luckily 5 minutes from home. My son was in iPad school because that was what he had to do.
Absolutely.
And so it was like coming back to switch on iPad school and going back to work and whatever when I could. And then, of course, in lockdown, I was literally working out of an extra flat that we had, and I had 2 people coming in there with masks, and we would literally alternate who would come in on what day so that nobody would have contact.
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy. But honestly, COVID really helped us. Like, COVID worked in our favor.
Right.
Because it was during COVID that we realized, and obviously we were only 6 or 8 months in when COVID hit, but through COVID, after lockdowns, we realized that, listen, you can rely on coverage and print coverage and, digital coverage and all of that, and it's great. But the bottom line is you really need to have your brand being talked about in an organic fashion.
Correct.
So we really moved to influencer marketing fast.
Right.
And that was something that I think, because we were one of the first movers in that space right then and there at the right time, we kind of built a really good influencer database. So we started this thing called the RMC Club in 2021. Which is basically a community of influencers, but we kind of segregated them citywide, so pan-India database.
Absolutely.
Plus we have segregated them category-wise. So, if a client comes to me saying, I only want fitness influencers from Chennai, that's what we do. So it's literally mommy bloggers or, F&B bloggers or, just key thought leaders. It could just be gym professionals who kind of can comment on the fitness trend. So we wanted to identify these pockets of KOLs who would basically be thought leaders and could talk well about products that we wanted to launch at the time, because traditional media was at a standstill during lockdowns, right? So we were like, can't always rely on it. Of course, digital presence was ongoing, but we said we need to have a voice that's talking about our products. So that was the time where, of course, the burst of influencers started during COVID, right? For us, in a big way in India, it started during COVID. So we quickly pivoted and, did that in a very organized fashion, so that we could have all of this sort of data there at our disposal and just kind of constantly use it to our advantage to push our products out there and not just rely only. Like, PR today is very multifaceted, right? It includes so much. You have a launch event, that's PR. You want to push out a brand in terms of sending out gifts, that's PR. Absolutely. You want to do influencer marketing, that's also PR. So that kind of definition of PR evolved in the last decade. It wasn't that before. Right. So to kind of keep up with that and also be at the forefront of it was what we decided to do during COVID. And I think that really worked in our favor. People noticed us because we were just a new firm. We were 1 year old. Why would you notice us? Because we just quickly pivoted and started doing a lot of that, so people would kind of understand that we're out there promoting our products. We're not giving up with lockdown after lockdown.
Precisely. In fact, a lot of people kind of shut their business down during the lockdown.
There were a lot of people. There were a lot that were adversely impacted and
very
took
badly
years to come back.
Or just kind of pivot into completely different professions.
Absolutely.
So kudos to have started right then and there and kind of,
Actually, I really feel like when lockdown happened, I was like, oh my God, I've literally just started and like this is what's happening to me.
But I think you set your roots back then.
But it really worked
It did.
because it defined how we will operate for the years to come. So, and also I think that when you're in startup mode and you're just going, because you have just, you have to do this and you have to do that. And
Absolutely.
it's just like in that, you're in the zone.
Yes.
COVID also gave us a chance to kind of like step back and just, basically look at things differently and just kind of not just look at the whole PR space as a whole in a holistic fashion, but also just step back and see what kind of an agency do we want to be.
Yes.
Because there's people who are giving you everything. There's people who are giving you only one thing. Now, what do we want to do as an agency?
Absolutely.
And so that kind of helped, that time helped for us to kind of regroup. And I, of course, had some very key people with me who are still with me, which is great.
Yes.
And so that process also was easier for me because we kind of did a lot of those discussions where we want to understand. We also spoke to so many other people to kind of like see where they're at during COVID, to see what their challenges are.
Of course.
And then we realized that we weren't doing as, we were doing well for what we thought we were at the time, as well as we could do at the time.
Of course.
So then we said, this is the way to go, and we take this this further, and we kind of regrouped. So I think it kind of gave us a reset, it gave us a pause, and it was used to a benefit for us.
Absolutely. That's how you grew from 2 to 65.
Not immediately, but over time.
Yes, over time, of course, not immediately. Yeah. But having said that, now that we've spoken about PR and about the brands, what are the kind of brands that you love to work with and why?
I enjoy every brand that we undertake. To be very honest with you, I enjoy every brand we undertake. I really like product. Of late, this is again, it changes every few months what I really like.
Yes.
But right now, I'm really enjoying the FMCG consumer goods space, beauty, fashion, food, all of it. But the consumer goods space, I'm really enjoying protein, fitness, all of that.
Absolutely.
I'm really enjoying that space because there's so much you can do with the product.
Absolutely.
So there is a lot of movement in that space. There's a lot of, and consumer behavior in India has changed, right?
Right.
Retail behavior has changed. Retail space has changed. So, and because there's now quick com and everything's changing a lot, and it's a great space to be in. If you have a good product, then you can really do a lot with it.
Correct.
So that's kind of something which I'm enjoying right now. But of course, I've always enjoyed the corporate sector as well, which is more service-led and more B2B. But I've enjoyed that because the storytelling there is
completely different. It's rooted.
Different, and it's also something that you can play a lot with.
Yes.
Because anything new that they do, of course, they have a lot of budgets to
work around with.
Work with other brands and just kind of push themselves out in a different way. So I love that space as well. But I really like the storytelling aspect of it too, because there's a lot that you can do with a larger corporate as well.
Absolutely. We spoke about influencers, like the entire burst of influencers, especially during COVID. At that point of time, it felt fresh. Is there any point today that brands come to you and say, no, not influencers?
Yeah.
Or is it, something that is fading out? From your point of view, from, the PR, marketing point of view, is it something which is on its way out, or something which is a little more niche now, with a few influencers who actually know what they are talking about without, using a little harsh word like selling out?
So I think it's changed a lot, like you rightly said.
Right.
Right now it's about the choice of influencer, because it needs to be authentic. At the time, everyone was, pre-COVID and even during COVID, what people were doing is so-and-so influencers getting great reach, let's work with them.
Yes.
And that was the kind of pull. But today, what's happening is even brands have gotten smart, because first of all, we always tell them that you'd rather work with nanos and micros at this point and UGC creators, because they're really giving you authentic voices. When you work with the macros, which of course we love to, but when you work with the macros, it's very obvious that they have a charge to it, right?
Yes.
It's that you're obviously paying for an XYZ A-lister influencer
Absolutely.
in every category.
Yes.
So when you work with UGC creators, nanos, micro-influencers, the HNI community at large, people who are just organically endorsing your product, and it looks organic, it may be paid, it may be unpaid, it may be a barter, whatever it may be, or they just pick up your product and they genuinely like it and they post about it, that gives you a lot more reach than a paid collab, and that has changed over time.
Absolutely.
That being said, with the macros, what happens is you want to associate with them because they give you the eyeballs, they give you the reach, and they work really well, but it has to be an organic fit.
Right.
You have to go to a product where you have to go to them with a product that they're actually going to use.
Right.
Because we've seen when it's not a good fit, it's not going to work.
Yes.
But if you're going to somebody, for example, I mean, of course, this is not a blogger situation, but for example, with Super You, when we launched Super You, and of course, Ranveer Singh is the owner of Super You. Super You and Ranveer is the best fit it gets, right? Because it's just literally, he's larger than life. Super You is larger than life. He's into fitness. He's also into indulgence. So it works really well as a product.
It resonates.
It resonates perfectly with him. But then there are other products out there, which I don't want to mention. But there's so many products where they take on a face of the brand. It could be an influencer, it could be a celebrity, but it's just not an organic fit.
It's a mismatch.
And it's a mismatch, and so it's not picking up the way it needs to because it's just not authentic. That's the reason, they don't do as well. Or number two is their content, which means the way that they're telling their story is just not translating with the audience.
Absolutely.
So
seems forced.
Two reasons why usually a brand doesn't work when they're using a mega celebrity or, like an A-lister celebrity, A-lister influencer. But influencer marketing, to answer your question, it has changed. It's become a lot more about the fit and about the language and about the way that person works with your product. And in fact, now we've really chosen to send the product to the influencer, ask them their opinion, and if they really like it, and then only proceed with them. When you're spending a lot of money on an influencer,
Precisely.
You need to kind of do that homework, because if they don't like the product and it's not a natural fit for them, it will show in their content.
It does.
And we've seen it happen. We've worked with influencers where we've chosen them, and then we've seen that that they weren't so excited to do the reel because it just doesn't work out. So things have changed a lot. It needs to be, and it, in a good way.
In a good way, of
because
course. Because
now also influencers have become pickier. They're also picking up work that works for them and not picking up work that works against what they believe in. I've had several nutritionists tell me that we will not promote this XYZ product because it's got something an ingredient in it that we cannot endorse, which is, I think, amazing.
Which is
fitness professionals.
That keeps it ethical.
It does keep it ethical, and we've had even mega influencers tell us that, listen, we love the product, you're willing to pay us a lot of money, we're very happy with that, but it's just not something I can put my name on. Which is great. That's how it should be. If you don't believe in it, don't take it.
Right. It should be transparent from the word go.
Exactly.
So that kind of works better.
And I think that's the direction that we've taken, and it's taken a while for us to get there. But it's now becoming slightly more professionalized because creatorverse is a very serious profession. People who don't take it seriously and say, oh, they're just bloggers or whatever, I don't like that, because they have to be given due respect.
Absolutely.
The work that they do, it's all day, it's all night.
Oh my God, yes, it's a lot of hard work.
Equivalent to any other work. They have to be given that respect.
I think it's much more than some professions.
100%. In some cases, it's even more. So they have to be given that respect. It is a profession and its own. To kind of devalue that wouldn't be right. But it obviously needed a little bit of course correction because it exploded during COVID.
Absolutely.
So this course correction has happened now, which is great. And honestly, you want to work with people who resonate with your product. And as long as you're getting that, then you're fine. It
should be a good fit at the end of the day.
Yes. And of course, listen, for the brand, if they're spending money, they want to also see some return. So you need to at least make sure that the product fit is good with the influencer or with the celebrity or whosoever you choose to be a brand face.
And that's where you come in.
And that's where
that's
the part we love.
Precisely.
The bridge. Yes.
The bridge between.
Absolutely.
Yes. How important is storytelling in today's digital world?
Very important. That hasn't changed, luckily.
Thank God for that.
That hasn't changed at all. I mean, storytelling is the keystone of, journalism and media, right? So if you're going to send out a press note or a press release that just is bland and doesn't tell a story,
Yes.
then there's no point for them to even open it and think about it.
Correct.
So there has to be something that you're offering them that's news, that's interesting, that's that has either a statistic or something interesting that the brand is launching. There has to be something for them to want to cover it.
Absolutely.
So storytelling is key, even in content, of course. Storytelling is key. If
key.
you can't, if that isn't, if you're not telling them what you're about and you're not highlighting why you versus someone else.
Right.
Because there's a million products in the market today. Services, products, corporates. There's a million options. So you don't have to choose that product. Why would you choose that product? So storytelling has to tell you why.
Exactly. That's true. And do you think women approach this storytelling, brand building differently from how men would?
It's a very interesting question, actually. So, of course, statistically, women are your key consumers even for men's products, right?
True.
So even when we launch men's products, we target women because they're the ones buying it. But that also has changed in the last few years. Men have become huge consumers themselves.
True.
So like recently, I was at talking to a luxury brand, spokesperson, and she said that in the store we have a lot of women who come in,
Right.
they buy for the men,
Yes.
and the men typically don't come in themselves, or if they come, the wife or the girlfriend or the mother chooses for them.
True.
But that's changing. Like there's a lot of men who are now consumers, and they're the ones who are kind of ordering,
Correct.
things, and the click rate has increased.
Right.
But do men and women view advertising or influencer marketing differently? 100%. I mean, I think men are more skeptical, and I think women are more interested in trying something out
Yes.
when they see an influencer posting about it.
Correct.
And that's just data in general. I mean, women across the board are more consumer, that we're more driven to kind of understand the trend of the market better, because we're really following content. We're seeing what
Absolutely.
people are posting, we're seeing what brands are launching, we're constantly kind of understanding what's going on, and we're on the lookout because we're
Yes.
consumers to a large level, right?
Absolutely.
A large level in the world, not just in India.
And from the flip side, where you're the one who's the bridge in the middle, as a woman,
Yeah.
have you found it different, from how a man would handle a certain situation in your business, in your line of work, and how you deal with it? I mean, I'm sure it's not something you sit down and think about, but if you had to give it just a second of a thought.
So PR as an industry is very women dominated, and not just in India, in the world.
Right.
But in the world over, I think men are in leading positions.
Correct.
In PR, 61% or something is in boardrooms, in PR boardrooms and stuff. You will see men in leadership positions more than women.
Right.
But it is heavily dominated by women.
Correct.
So women are account holders, women are account directors, women are leading on their accounts, and women are, because we're just, and I feel women have an edge in PR because we're very nuanced, right?
Right.
I've said this before, that we're basically very nurturing of relationships. We're nurturing in the home, we're nurturing in the office.
Absolutely.
And so obviously when we're handling a client, there is a certain level of a friendship that we develop. There's a
Right.
little bit of relationship that we develop as women with, whether they're men or women as a client or an organization or a corporate. We still develop this relationship with them, which
Right.
they value.
Absolutely.
So I feel like women have a unique edge in PR. And I definitely think, I mean, not to say that the men can't do it either. There are several who work really well, and we work with so many amazing men in PR, and of course we have so many in our organization as well.
Correct.
But it is heavily women dominated. So I feel like now the seasoned players are very used to that. They all know that
That the
PR
women are in
is
the
a
forefront.
women-dominated space, and they look for. I haven't seen a lot of kind of gendered, stereotypical
Yes.
sort of comments being made in this space, which you see in a lot of other spaces,
Right.
because they're really used to it in India.
Correct.
In India specifically, women dominated. I mean, you'll see a list of PR agencies, and you'll see 99% of them are founders are women.
True.
It's literally that's how it is. So I think people in India are very attuned to it. I think abroad there's still a little bit of space for women to rise up in leadership positions, but I think that women, of course, we have a unique edge. We're good
Absolutely.
at building and nurturing relationships, and definitely that's a huge pro for us.
Right. The rapport building is what
Yes.
counts at the end of the day. That is the
Absolutely.
basic line of
Basic,
work.
yes, absolutely.
What is the one quality that separates successful clients from the rest without being biased to anybody? It's hard, but yeah.
Yeah. I think the ability to listen.
Okay.
Because the thing is, we have such amazing clients and amazing products that come our way. But for some reason, some of them don't really want to listen to you. Hire an agency, of course, but at the same time, sometimes you're not willing to really hear their viewpoint or execute what they're saying, which is fine. Everybody can have a difference of opinion, and as a brand owner, you're the custodian of your brand, so you're going to go with what feels natural and what kind of feels organic to you, for you to do for your baby and your brand, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, when you come to us or you come to any agency, there's a kind of background of experience that we come with, and we've dealt with so many brands in the same space.
Right.
So we know the pitfalls, we've gone through it all. So a lot of times where I see, I really want to just shake them and say, listen, do this, it'll be great for the brand. And they're like, no, we really don't want to do it. Don't want to spend so much money, or we don't want to have the time, or we don't have the logistics support. And we let it be. And the brand doesn't, continues to not do as well as we wanted it to, or we thought it would do.
Right.
And then not just one campaign, but it's happened a couple of times, not too many times, but where clients have just not been open to seeing the other side. Because what happens is when it's yours, you're so narrow focused and you're so deep in, you can't see it from another point of view.
Protective of
the positioning.
Of the positioning, I guess.
You don't want to allow anybody to disrupt that, change that. You don't want any kind of change in what you envisaged for that baby of yours, right? So for me, I just feel like the really good clients, are really receptive to brainstorming with us and sitting with us and kind of understanding what we're saying. We don't always have to do what we're suggesting, but that exchange of ideas, that brainstorming, being open leads to a lot more that comes out. And when you're constantly kind of getting a roadblock from a client, I've noticed the association doesn't work well, and the product doesn't end up doing well, because eventually if they're not ready to listen to us, they're not really ready to listen to anybody in their organization also. So what happens is it eventually becomes a bit of a problem for the client themselves. But the minute you're receptive to multiple voices kind of sitting, and that's what marketing is today, right? You brainstorm on a table with 10 different viewpoints, and then you put down what works as a group. That's what it is.
Right.
And nobody in my organization, I am not the person to come up with these ideas. So while I can sit here and take the credit and be like, okay, I'm the founder and all of that, but it is a group effort. It is a team effort. One person alone cannot change the world, right?
Not at all.
You've got to have that team, you've got to have people sort of doing their research and coming back with ideas, and then we brainstorm which are the best ones, then we present those to the client.
Absolutely.
So when the client is hearing it, it's already gone through one round.
True.
But if they're willing to sit with us and ideate and brainstorm and come up with an entire strategy for the year that we're suggesting, that I see as a more successful client for me.
Absolutely.
Because we can grow together. And obviously, we want to when we come on board, we treat them as our partner, right?
Absolutely.
We're like a partner in your business without taking any equity. Where we act like it's our baby. We have stake in your company. We call it our brand. I'll literally be like, my brand. And they're like, but it's not yours. And I'm like, yes, but I treat it as mine.
Which is key.
Many times I talk like this, where I say, oh, this brand, why don't you, collaborate with us? Why did you say your brand? Do you have stake in it? I'm like, no, but it's just my brand. That's how I feel.
At the end of the day, and that is how you've kind of grown from strength to strength and even taken brands forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very key component. If you don't feel for the brand, again, it just goes back to the whole cultivating a personal relationship, not just with the client, but also with the brand. There's so many times where we have ideated a product idea completely by ourselves and given it to the client and said, listen, you should do this. We really feel this will work, and they've done it and it's worked. But of course, there are some times where you can't always take everything that we say and run with it.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line is, if you're willing to sit with us and just kind of,
understand your point of view.
Sit with us, brainstorm, talk to us before you take decisions.
Yes.
That works really well.
And of course, you bring a lot to the table.
And we have amazing brands that do this, really big, large-scale brands that are doing thousands of crores in business in every year. And the founders take the time to sit with us on a monthly basis to discuss strategy. And that really is a game changer for us.
Of course it is. Wow. I'm ending with this, and I always do. What does strength mean to you? What is behind your strength?
Strength means to me confidence, self-confidence,
Right.
and integrity, and obviously resilience, because you need that in any profession, really.
Absolutely.
And what gives me strength is a lot of this self-confidence, because I just feel like over the years, I mean, obviously there's so many things, little things that shape you, right? So there are things that lead you to believe that, okay, I am chosen for this path. So this
Right.
is what I'm meant to do. But definitely, of course, I mean, my son is my biggest, everything of my life. Like,
Right.
he also helped me name the firm, and, he's just been a part of my every journey. So obviously my son is the biggest source of my strength, and my husband as well, because he's the biggest supporter. And, when you have 100 events to attend, you need somebody to be with your child, and he is like an equal partner and steps in for me, so which is what you really need at this point. It's not, so I love that we have this equal partnership, but definitely family is where you derive your strength from.
Very true.
But also I think just, the years that has shaped sort of my personality, or just the way I work, or, my leadership style, I think that really comes from having this confidence that whatever, you have to have this, because you will have 100 things thrown at you
Yes.
every day. And somehow you don't know how if you're that kind of a person that can't take that risk, or
Right.
can get bogged down by the stress, you're going to crumble under pressure. But I am that person that I thrive under pressure. So I love it. And I think confidence has a lot to do with that, because if you don't have that, honestly, you're going to crumble. So
And badly.
for me, yeah. So for me, it's just that the minute there's a high stress situation, I'm like, okay, let's find a solution. I'm not going to get hyper. I'm not going to scream, cry, get upset, because
Right.
I'm just that solution finder.
Correct.
So to be there, I think you have to have that strength, and you have to derive it from some source or the other, because
course.
otherwise you're going to, I mean, there's like 10, 20 things that erupt every day.
Yes.
So if you have to
For the
learn to
best of
deal
us,
with
yeah.
it. Yeah,
For the
everybody
best of
has
us,
it.
yes.
And so in our line of work, it's minute to minute, right? So
Absolutely.
it's like, this has happened. We need 20 minutes to, kind of control this
Oh my
crisis.
God, yes.
So what are we going to do? And
Right.
I work best under those situations.
Thinking on
So
your feet.
I love stress. Stress works for me. No, not so much for my doctors and
Not for
others.
them.
They're like, you take too much stress, and I'm like, but it works for me as a person. Like, I love stress.
Yeah, it helps.
But yeah, I can work best under a deadline. If I don't have a deadline, I'll be chilling.
Yes.
Be like, take me to the Maldives or something, because like I have no stress.
Absolutely. That also works at times, though.
Yeah, I work on every holiday, so I don't know what that's like. I work
I
every
understand
single
that.
holiday, at least 4 to 6 hours a day, every morning.
I'm
I'll be
certain.
working, because I don't know any other way to be. So
Great.
holidays also I love. I take a lot of them with my son, of course, but I work through everything. So for me, that is also a constant part. Like holiday
Yes.
means work also to me. Of
Why
course,
am I
I will
not
enjoy.
surprised?
I'm not trying to seem like a workaholic, because
Yeah.
I do enjoy. I take my weekends. I go out. I love
Right.
meeting my friends. I'll always, I'm known to have people home all the time. I love it.
Right.
I love entertaining, but work is always a priority for me.
Absolutely.
It's work and son, and
Of
then
course.
everybody else is after that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shouger, for reminding us, that when strategy that you've shown so beautifully throughout, I think, your career, your wholesome life, when it meets, storytelling, you're not just building brands, you're building impact and legacy. So it was lovely having you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very much.